All right, guys, so I'm just going to wrap this up and then I'm going to shower. So, what do you do when you have had a very toxic relationship with your mother? When she has attacked you and thinks in the name of mothering that she can put her daughter down or bring her daughter to an abortion or, just kind of like shame her for being pregnant when she actually didn't even teach you very well about boys. My father did say, "You're the one who got pregnant." Yes, I did get pregnant, and I think I've taken responsibility for that. But does that mean it's okay to have an abortion? So, what do we do here, guys? What do we do with this? First of all, we need to get in there, which I did with other women, about the mother-daughter relationship. I had said, when someone said you couldn't have been forced because you weren't sex trafficked, said, "You didn't know my mother, did you?" Now, when I was growing up, and Ben can testify to this, I mean, my mother picked me up from the dances, every single dance early. All my friends can testify to this too. And they're like, "Why does Melissa always have to leave early? Why did, and it wasn't like, okay, time's up. I'm picking you up at this time. Meet me at the door." It was, "Come on, Melissa, let's go." Like I was doing something wrong all the time at the dance. And so, um, when you have had this happen, guys, when you have had a very toxic mother-daughter relationship, and you're just like, what the heck did I do? All I did was I was born. What did I do? I didn't even do anything. I was born. And like I said, I was a very good kid. I was an A-B student. I didn't really talk back to my parents only once when my mother was very provoking. This was after the abortion, so understandable. And she was like, "Oh, maybe you and Mike will work out. Oh, maybe it'll be okay." And then she'd go to my dad and get me in trouble with him. And then she'd, to me, "Oh, okay, maybe it'd work out with you too." On and on, right? And I'm like, "Well, he wants to marry me. He gave me a wedding ring." Okay, yeah, and just a lot of stuff, guys. So, what do you do when you have a mother who has pretty much been against you in life? Pretty much. I mean, why did she have kids? That's one question. You're like, why do you even have me if you didn't like kids, right? Um, I don't know the story. There are a lot of skeletons in the closet. There are a lot of things I don't know, and I was told there were secrets in the closet. So, you just go through it, guys. You just go through the motions. You grow up and you go through it. I am very glad I went to school. I really am, because it did protect me from a lot of stuff. So I used to hear my grandmother, who did prostitute, talking to my mother in the background and show her, like, you know, new shirts she got. Mac was there. I remember my grandmother's boyfriend, different stuff happening in the background, money being passed, different things, sketchy things happening all the time. So somehow God did protect me from quite a bit, but I did grow up feeling, really empty, no solid foundation with principles, with a grandmother who did prostitute, and on it went, guys. It was a lot. And of course, I didn't know all this. As a kid, you are protected a lot. You're usually like in a bubble, right? As a kid, kids bounce back from a lot, and that's true. They don't know everything going on. They don't know what's happening. So, I mean, like, even when I was at dance, my dad did not want my grandmother there. He didn't like my grandmother. And I just remember thinking my grandmother couldn't come to my dance recital. So there was just a lot going on, guys. A lot. What do you do when you haven't even, you tried to talk to your mom about things, and, she didn't want to talk about it. Once I said, once I had my son, I said, that was an abortion and that was wrong. And I didn't even know it was an abortion. I didn't even know what an abortion was, guys, but she did. She knew. And she said, "Oh, you were too young." And what kind of mother does that? What kind of mother tells her daughter after that she was too young and doesn't even care that a child was killed. This was a child. There's no room for a child. There's no conversation about that child. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if, you grieve your child. It doesn't matter if there's a name for that child. It just doesn't matter. You were too young. That is pretty cold-blooded, cruel, right? And so, um, there, yeah, you're gonna have to go through stuff with other women, guys, is how you're going to have to solve that mother-daughter relationship, which I did the work. You're going to have to talk to other women. You have to be around women and talk about, what was your relationship like, especially in churches, but what was your relationship like with your mom? Did she do this? Did she do that? We are not talking about it enough. We need to do more. Fortunately, we do have some stuff with like Brooke Shields' mother, Joan Crawford's mother, other people's mothers, and we have to look for it. And we have to be like, okay, so when I'm at a Bible study or something, what was that relationship like? When I did a Bible study, mom to mom, MOPS, I did a group of women and seeing how that mother-daughter relationship was, you're going to see stuff. And somebody said to me once, it may always bother you, Melissa, that you're going to see fathers and daughters who are close. That may always bother you because you did not have that. And it is so foreign for me to see a father and daughter super close. It still is weird to me because it's like my dad wasn't really there. He wasn't. Yes, he was busy doing construction. Yes, he had to work. Yes, we were busy going to the bow and arrow shoots all the time, but he wasn't really there for me. Like, I don't really remember having a conversation with my father. I remember him in the background. I remember he was around, sometimes. I mean, he went hunting and fishing on the weekends. He was always busy. My birthday was deer season time, November 1st. He was always gone. And then when I was a teenager, I saw him less. So it's like, what kind of conversations did I have? It was very little, and it wasn't even a conversation. It was more like, how do I say this? It was more like, do as I say, don't do as I do. Just listen. So, like, I mean, it would be the few times I had with my dad, it would be like, do you do what everyone else does? Or what'd you learn in school today? That was probably the question I had most from my dad. Maybe, I think it was maybe third grade, maybe fourth grade, just a few times, right? What'd you learn in school today? There was a few questions like that a few times. Why didn't you get it? You got a B. Why didn't you get an A? I don't know. Teacher had a bad day or something. I have no idea why. So, you know, it's kind of something like when I grew up, you kind of had to catch it with your dad. You didn't like sit there and have conversations with your father. You just didn't. Life went on and you just, you know, if he's in a bad mood, you knew it. If he wasn't, I mean, I don't know. There wasn't a lot put into parenting when I was growing up. So, to think that you're going to be close to your daughter later just because she has grandkids, is crazy. So there was one time I went to Deerfield with my dad and I had my son with me and he pushed my hand away when I was talking to my country grandmother. And when we got in the truck, I said, why did you, not that I ever went anywhere with my dad, but now that I had a son, he won my time. I said, why'd you push my hand away like that? He goes, what are you talking about? I didn't push your hand away. I go, yeah, you did. He goes, no, I didn't. You must be crazy. I did not push your hand away. And this is how much my dad could lie. This is how much he could lie. So I'm like, yeah, you did. And I was so offended about it, So basically, I would go over and my dad said to me once, I'm sorry, I wasn't a very good father. And I was like, Like, what do you mean? Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, you're, I didn't have any expectations until I became a mother. And so, yes, my dad was not the best dad, and I did forgive him. He wasn't. But then another time he says, I don't know what I did wrong. Well, which one is it? Were you not a good dad, or you didn't know what you did wrong? So, what he did do wrong was the abortion. And I think he knows it. To take a person's life is wrong. So, I do forgive him for that. But there's nothing you can do, guys. If Kevin Leandro says your parents hate you, there's nothing you can do. You know, why'd you have kids? Why'd you, if you bring someone into the world, why would you hate them? So, yeah, that kind of thing. I don't know. Some people just don't like the truth. You know, you say there's a God, you try to help people, and they just don't want to believe. So it's something God has to do. My dad was an atheist and a very self-made man, very self-made. So, you can pray for your parents, and that's all you can do. And if they want to keep lying about you guys and keep, my mother and my grandmother had major problems, so it's really not surprising that a daughter would have issues with her mother when her mother and her had major issues, major issues. My mother's like, you never even brought me a toothbrush. My grandmother would literally say, yes, I did. And she would say, no, you didn't. You didn't let me finish school. I only went to school in sixth grade. My grandmother would literally say in a conversation in front of me, you went to eighth grade. Like there was no agreeing. So, I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise, guys. If your mother didn't have a good relationship with her mother, how would you think that she's going to have time to have one with you? So just be thankful for what you had with your parents and grow up and realize people will be people. They will get offended by things that you say, and just realize it's just the way it is, guys. And that's the best way to move forward. Appreciate everything they did. You can still love them. And if they hate you, they hate you. You can still have peace with God and know that everything has happened for a reason. I was talking to a guy today, and he's like I said, he's like, your husband left, I can't believe it. And I'm like, I know. And he's like, well, God already knew. God already knew he was going to leave. Everything happens for a reason. When it's time to die, it's time to die. Everything happens for a reason. There's a season for everything. So you just got to talk to other women, which I did a lot. Get through the stuff. Look at other people's perspectives. I also recommend books by Terri Aptner. She talks about toxic mothers, and get the support you need with a mother and abortion. I mean, as if abortion's not enough, but with your mother. And that's usually the root cause of most women's abortions is their mothers and their grandmothers want it. Probably even more than the men. It's usually the mothers. Okay, thanks for joining me today, guys.